My name is Shayaan Kaleem, and today I'll be presenting my study on the ocular health status of homeless or marginally housed adults, which is a scoping review. And so I worked on this in collaboration with the University of Toronto and St. Michael's Hospital. And in the scoping review, we looked at 37 studies encompassing 10,287 adults, and we have no funding or ethics approval needed. So why this matters? So if vision loss in this population is both clinically meaningful and often correctable. So homeless or marginally housed adults face the intersection of high disease burden and weak access pathways. Competing survival priorities, financial barriers, and fragmented care drive underdiagnosis and undertreatment. Uncorrected vision loss affects mobility, injury risks, service access, employment, and reintegration. Even in universal systems, coverage gaps for routine exams and eyewear persist for working age adults. So as we can see, limited access, which includes insurance and cost, transport and awareness for services, which affects the um, marginalized community or homeless community more than others. As well, there's missed routine care, so there's delayed refraction, untreated cataract and glaucoma, and low follow-up to these services. And finally, there's functional harm, so there's falls and mobility limits, daily task burden, and lower employability. And so this review asks whether eye care programs are meeting this burden. So study objective. So, first of all, scope. So, adults age 18 plus who are homeless or marginally housed across sheltered, unsheltered, and unstable housing settings. So, the questions that we wanted to ask was, what is the pooled burden of visual impairment and major ocular disease, and how well do programs move patients through care? And number three, contribution. Extends prior work by focusing on adults, adding post-2019 literature, and quantifying care process measures. So our primary pooled outcomes, any visual impairment, uh, so which is we sort of defined as visual acuity of 20, 40 or worse. We were looking also at non-refractive ocular pathology. We were looking at also on-site exam uptake. And then new diagnosis and referrals made during these clinics, and then also the vision correction that was given, including glasses. So methods and evidence section. So we use a Prisma scoping review approach, which was chosen because designs and outcome definitions were heterogeneous. So how this review was done. So we use the databases Medline, Embase, and PsycInfo through May 2024. We included English language studies of adults experiencing homelessness or marginal housing that reported ocular outcomes. A screening in duplicate by four reviewers with a third reviewer for adjudication, and a quantitative synthesis using uh, pool proportions from aggregate numbers and denominators rather than a formal meta-analysis, as their designs were too heterogeneous to sort of combine them in that way. So overall, we found 2,874 relevant references from the literature. We reviewed 100 full text and included 37 studies, which represented 10,287 participants. So what evidence base were we looking at? So predominantly of North American origin and cross-sectional. So as you can see, there was a lot of studies from the United States, from Canada, from the United Kingdom, and four studies from other countries, but most of them were from the United States, which is 21 studies. And then as for the design and sample profile, so you can see the 70.3% were cross-sectional studies, so which represents 26 of 37 studies. So 10,287 unique adults overall, with a mean age of 50.5 years, and 76.4% male in studies reporting sex. About half of reported samples were aged 50 plus. And so the interpretation, so we see that the literature mainly describes urban service-connected population, so unsheltered adults may be sort of represented based on sort of the data that we see. So barriers to care, eye care are overwhelmingly structural. So there's a frequent frequency of barriers and themes across included studies included insurance and socioeconomic status, which was mentioned in 17 studies, transportation and location access, which was reported in 9 studies, and lack of awareness of services, which was reported in 8 studies. So additional system signals showed that 34.5% were uninsured, so 1,092 over 3,169. So there was an Ontario coverage gap. So 2 studies explicitly noted lack of eye care coverage for ages 20 to 65. And there was a clinical translation. So programs that succeeded will need transportation support, uh, simpler referral pathways and reliable coverage for exams and basic eyewear, as many of these studies found that there was not great follow-up after these studies were done. So the core burden of visual loss found in these studies were that 37.7% had any visual impairment, so about 1,900 out of 5,000. When defined as vision acuity of 20/40 or worse, there was 33.8%. And in terms of non-refractive ocular pathology, we found that there was about 19.4% who had non-refractive ocular pathology. So the takeaway of this is that roughly 1 in 3 participants had measurable functional impairment, and about 1 in 5 had non-refractive pathology detected on examination. So what diseases were being found? So we looked at the pooled prevalence. We can see that there's 23.9% had cornea or external eye disease. 12.5% were found to have cataract, 12% to have retinal pathology, and another 9% to have glaucoma or suspected glaucoma, and 8.5% to have eye trauma. So the interpretation is that the disease burden is not limited to refractive error. The spectrum supports a dual strategy, same-day refraction and fast linkage to ophthalmic care. The denominators differ because not every study measured every disease category, and so this is not a formal risk meta-analysis. So care process, engagement in high and the downstream, there is a gap in the care. So step one would be to bring care to the patient. So 93.2% of the people who the study was offered to completed the on-site eye examination. And so what happens after that? Well, we'll see that 24.2% received a new sort of diagnosis or referral. And then 57% received prescription glasses. So we see that downstream outputs come from smaller reported subsets, but there seems like there's a mismatch that was found, which was described in the literature about the screen to treatment gap. And so it's very important that the next future steps would be to have further studies which evaluate the long-term follow-up and then as well assess how these patients are doing. So how does this sort of compare with the general population? So in this review, we saw that about 34% of patients had visual impairment worse than 20/40, and from the literature, we see that the same thing is about 9.1% of adults aged 40 to 59, and 3.5% aged 18 to 39. Of course, our sort of population includes all adults 18 plus, and there wasn't a good study which had the exact same population, but these are roughly similar estimates as close as possible from the literature. As you can see, cataract was 12.5 in our study compared to 7.3 in a study with adults 50 to 59 years old, 9.1% glaucoma in our study compared to 1.9% in adults aged 40 to 59, and cornea and external eye disease, 23.9% compared to 4.7% in dry eye prevalence in adults under age 50. So what ophthalmology services should do with these findings? So first of all, outreach exam. Portable acuity and refraction teleophthalmology triage when needed. Same-day correction, pair refraction with immediate spectacle dispensing wherever possible. Navigation support, schedule visits, arrange transport troubleshoot coverage barriers, and then there's definitive care, fast access to cataract, glaucoma, retinal, and other ophthalmic treatment. So near-term actions emphasized by the authors include same-day refraction and dispensing, patient navigators, transport support, and broader coverage for routine exams and basic eyewear. So strengths and limitations. So, strengths include the largest updated adult-focused synthesis in this space with 37 studies and 10,287 participants. It includes post-2019 literature and harmonized reporting around pooled outcome categories, and moves beyond prevalence alone by reporting care process measures such as on-site exams, diagnosis/referral, and dispensing. So the limitations include housing definitions, acuity threshold, and disease ascertainment methods, which were heterogeneous. Pooled proportions came from aggregated numerators and denominators, not a formal meta-analysis with heterogeneity metrics. And many studies were cross-sectional, convenience samples, and maybe underrepresenting unsheltered or non-service connected adults. And more than half of studies were US-based, limiting global generalizability. So take-home messages. For this population, the gap is not whether people will engage, it is whether systems can convert screening into durable care. Number one, burden. About 1 in 3 participants had visual impairment, and nearly 1 in 5 had non-refractive pathology. On-site exams uptake was very high, supporting the idea that access is the main bottleneck. 3, same-day dispensing. Navigation support and better coverage are realistic system changes that could improve outcomes. Thank you so much.